Well, thank you for joining us for another Unmuted with Marsha. And do we ever have an exciting guest for you today? You're hearing a lot about election reform and HR1 and S1 and what is going to happen with elections, whether they're going to be federalized or not. And we have an expert from the Heritage Foundation, a senior fellow. He is the senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Edwin Meese III Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. He is an authority on a wide range of issues on civil rights, First Amendment, rule of law, government reform, and he manages the Heritage Foundation's election law reform initiatives. On top of this, he has been on the Presidential Advisory Commission under President Trump, was a member of the Federal Election Commission, and he even got some good old Tennessee roots for himself when he graduated from Vanderbilt University School of Law. Hans von Spakovsky. Well, Hans, I am thrilled that you are joining us. So thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I have to say I really enjoyed my time in Nashville when I was going to law school there.
Well, do you still have a pair of cowboy boots?
I do, as a matter of fact.
Awesome. Well, that means you're legit, right?
Right.
So let's get right into this on HR1, because I have to tell you, every single day we get phone calls into our office with people saying, explain this to me. Tell me what this bill is all about. So give a good, concise overview of HR1 and what it would actually do.
Sure. HR1 would be basically a federal takeover of the administration of elections in this country. In essence, Congress would be overriding state laws, state rules, state regulations all over the country and putting in all kinds of really bad, unwise, reckless mandates and put in all kinds of other requirements that I think actually would destroy the integrity and security of the election process in all future elections.
You know, Hans, we hear from people that will say, well, now, I thought this bill was going to make certain that we knew legal votes were counted and illegal votes were not counted. I thought this was going to be sure there was a uniform way for voter ID. But this bill really doesn't address those problems, does it?
No, in fact, it makes those particular issues, many of them, worse. I mean, to just give you a couple of examples, because remember, this is almost 900-page bill. There is so much crammed into this that it's hard to describe it all. But just a couple of quick examples. Look, if you're a state that has a voter ID requirement, like Tennessee does, which is a very wise policy, your voter ID law would now be gutted. You would not be able to enforce the ID law. Why? Because the bill says the only thing states can require from somebody is for them to sign a form in which they say, oh, yeah, I really am who I say I am, which means, Martha, I could go into a polling place and claim that I am John Smith. And as long as I sign a form saying I'm John Smith, they have to let me vote. Combine that with the fact that it requires states to put in same-day voter registration. That means that states have to allow people to walk into a polling place on election day, register to vote, and immediately vote. So put those two together. I'm not a resident of Tennessee anymore, but I could walk into any town or city in the state with a fake name, a fake address that claims I live in that town or city. They have to let me register to vote. Election officials have no time to verify that any of the information I'm giving them is actually real. And then they have to let me vote. They can't ask for an ID. I can register, vote, walk out of the polling place. There's nothing election officials can do to stop that. And I could then go down the street to the next polling place and do it again.
which is astounding. We
It is.
always say we want to preserve one person, one vote. And
Right.
this would absolutely destroy that, because it would allow you to vote multiple states, multiple locations within a county, or within a state. Now, one of the provisions in this bill that has astounded individuals when I have mentioned it is that it would take all these different databases in the state, whether it is driver's license or college enrollees, and it would put all of those names, addresses, phone numbers into your particular county's voter registration file. So let's say you lived in Indiana and you came to Tennessee to go to the University of Tennessee. You would find yourself eligible to vote not only in Indiana, your place of permanent residence, but also in Tennessee. Or let's say that you illegally entered the country and you got a driver's license. Or let's say you were legally in the country on a green card. All of those databases would be entered into your state's voter rolls. So thereby, you're not a citizen, but you would have a right to vote. Am I understanding that correct?
You are. It requires states to put in automatic voter registration. So in essence, every state agency that interacts with the public is going to have to forward the names of those members of the public to election officials to register. But it gets worse, because it's not just state agencies that are required to do that. Federal agencies are also. So federal agencies will be put in the position of trying to decide, well, is this individual, which state is he a resident in? Which state is he domiciled in? And then sending that information to election officials. So what you're going to get, as you've described, is individuals being registered multiple times in the same state and multiple times in different states. Now, supposedly, the sponsors of this say, oh, well, they're only supposed to send forward information on people that they know are citizens. But we've already encountered a problem all over the country of DMVs not doing a good job of that already. Pennsylvania recently had to admit that literally thousands of non-citizens had been registered to vote despite it being illegal because of a glitch in their DMV system. And it's clear the sponsors know this is going to happen, Senator, because they put in a provision that says there can be no civil or criminal prosecution of any alien because they became registered to vote. So they clearly know that folks are going to get registered who shouldn't be registered.